All right, let's talk about a simple trick that can totally change the game for your AI results. Honestly, it's a little counterintuitive, but I promise, once you see why it works, you'll be using it all the time.
You know that feeling, right? You give an AI a perfectly clear instruction. It starts off great, and then a few sentences later, it just completely ignores what you asked for. It is so common and so frustrating, but it turns out there's a really specific mechanical reason for it, and an incredibly simple fix.
So this problem actually has a name. It's called rule drift. The AI totally gets what you want at the beginning, but as it keeps writing, your original instruction just kind of fades from its attention, and that's when you get those messy, inconsistent results.
Okay, let's look at a classic example. We're asking for an explanation of photosynthesis, and we've got one simple rule tucked away at the very end. Format the answer as exactly 3 bullet points. Seems simple enough, right? What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, this is basically a perfect recipe for failure.
And yep, this is usually what you get. The model starts off strong, maybe gives you 1 or 2 bullet points, but because that formatting rule is so far away from where it's actually writing, it just forgets. It'll drift off into a paragraph or tack on a summary you never even asked for.
So how do we fix this? Let's dive into a really cool little experiment that shows off a powerful principle of how to work with these AIs.
On the left, you see our original prompt. Now check out the one on the right. The core request is exactly the same, but notice the tiny change. We've stated the formatting rule twice, once at the top, marked important, and then again at the bottom as a reminder. That's it. That is the only thing we changed.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. The prompt on the left gives us a simple, pretty basic answer, but look at the output from the repeated prompt on the right. Yeah, sure, the formatting is perfect, but read the actual words. The content is completely different. The AI didn't just follow the rule, it got way more academic, way more detailed. So, why?
Let's break that down. The first prompt, it's like it put the AI in general audience mode, just talking about plants and sunlight. But the second prompt, with that repeated constraint, it's like it flipped a switch to academic mode. Suddenly, it's throwing out terms like chloroplasts, the Calvin cycle, ATP, and NPPPDH. The repetition didn't just fix the formatting, it completely changed the AI's persona.
So what is going on under the hood here? How can simply repeating a rule have such a dramatic effect? Well, to get it, we have to understand how these models actually work. And here's a hint. It has nothing to do with memory. It is all about attention.
Okay, quick technical deep dive. Large language models are what we call autoregressive. Now that's just a fancy way of saying they build their response one piece at a time, from left to right. And here's the kicker. Each new word is chosen based only on the words that came right before it. The AI literally has no idea what it's going to say next.
So, if it doesn't know the future, how does it follow rules? Well, it doesn't remember them like we do. Instead, it pays attention to all the words in the prompt, and words that are closer get more attention. By repeating your rule, you're basically putting a copy right next to the point of creation, which makes it statistically way harder for the model to ignore it.
Here's a great way to picture it. Imagine the AI is a writer, and your instruction is a sticky note at the top of a really long piece of paper. The farther down the page they get, the less likely they are to glance up and see that note. Repeating the instruction is like you walking over and slapping a brand new sticky note right at the bottom of the page, exactly where they need to see it.
Okay, so that's the why behind all this. Now for the fun part. Let's make this practical. Here is your official playbook for using repetition to get what you want from your AI.
First off, you don't need to do this for every single prompt. Think of it as a power tool. You pull it out for specific jobs, like when you need a super strict format like JSON, or you're trying to lock in a certain tone of voice. It's especially useful for really long answers where you just know that rule drift is going to happen.
And where you put the repetitions is a huge deal. The best practice is to create a prompt sandwich. You state the rule once at the very beginning to set the stage. Then you put your main request in the middle, and you repeat the rule one more time at the very end right before the AI starts typing. But a quick word of warning. This can totally backfire if you're not careful. For example, if you repeat conflicting rules, like asking it to be both short and sweet and extremely detailed, you're not helping. You're just creating confusion, and you'll probably get a weird, mushy answer that's neither.
So if you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this. Repeat your constraints, not your explanations. Repeat the must-dos, the non-negotiable rules. Keep it short, sharp, and consistent.
All right, let's wrap this all up with a new way to think about talking to AI.
It's really less about teaching a student and more about guiding a very powerful but very, very literal machine. When you repeat an instruction, you're not actually fixing a flaw in the AI's logic. That's not what's happening. What you're really doing is just stabilizing its behavior. You're making the outcome you want statistically more likely by keeping your rule top of mind.
And that's really the heart of it. By repeating instructions, you're not just hoping the AI remembers. You are being strategic. You are physically placing your rules inside the model's attention window at the two moments that matter most, right at the beginning and right at the end.
This one simple technique gives you a way higher degree of control. It turns you from someone just asking questions into an active director of the AI. So the only question left is, now that you know how to do it, what are you going to create?